Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to our Kartik month special. We will continue with our hearing about the pastimes of the Lord in Brajabhumi. And I was listening to His Grace Radheshyam Sundar Prabhu's lectures earlier. And in that particular piece, he is talking about who is God. I mean, our preliminary understanding of God is that, and if you use the alphabets G-O-D, that G stands for generator. Generator means the origin of something. Then O stands for operator. He not only generates things, he operates things. Or in other words, we could say he maintains things. And then the D stands for he destroys it. So this is a preliminary understanding of God because this defines how God operates the material cosmos. He's the generator, operator, and destroyer. In other words, he's the creator, maintainer, and destroyer. But this is only a partial understanding of God. Is this God's only responsibility or responsibilities? So we have to go beyond this, our initial definition of God as a powerful being. God actually means he doesn't have any work to do. So in the spiritual world, Krishna does not have any work to do because he is surrounded by servants who take up that work on his behalf. Therefore, the all-attractive Krishna, his only duty, if you could call it that, is to enjoy pastimes with his devotees in the spiritual world. So for time immemorial, these pastimes are going on in the spiritual world between Krishna and his pure devotees. So if you ask what happens in the spiritual world, this is what actually happens. All the time there are pastimes. And through these pastimes, the Lord is giving his devotees bliss. And the devotees, by serving the Lord in various capacities, they are bringing the Lord so much bliss. And Prabhu was mentioning in that particular class, so if we go into a deeper explanation of who is the Lord, then we have to look at three phrases. The first phrase is Paramatattva. The second phrase is Sarva Shaktiman. And then the third phrase is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. If you understand these three phrases, Prabhu explains, then you've understood what is the Lord's position. So earlier we said generator, operator, destroyer. That is just a small, insignificant section of the Lord's responsibilities, especially as it relates to the material world. What is this Paramatattva? That he's Adi Purusha, he's the originator of everything. He is the original. That means there's nothing beyond Krishna. So normally if we try to identify our genealogy, we'll keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. Yeah, until we reach one of the rishis, and then the rishis come from Brahma. And Brahma comes from Vishnu. Then Vishnu comes from one of the Mahasankarsan expansions. And if you keep going back, you'll arrive at Krishna. But you can't go beyond Krishna because there's nothing beyond him. He is everything. So from that sense, Krishna is Paramatattva. Then he is Sarva Shaktiman. He is the source of all Shaktis. Any and all Shaktis that are there in the spiritual world, that are there in the material cosmos, emanate from Krishna. So he is Sarva Shaktiman. Then the third phrase is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Akhila Rasamrita, meaning unending originator of bliss in the association of his devotees. In the sense, the Lord is always reciprocating the love with the love that his devotees serve him with. So he is the supreme reciprocator of love. Actually, he's the only reciprocator of love. So through these three phrases, if we can understand who is God, so how do we understand the position of the devotee then? And Prabhu says, the devotees, the phrase that we can use to describe the pure devotees of the Lord is Krishnarthe Akila Cheshta. Meaning, Akila means all. Cheshta means endeavor. Krishnarthe Akila Cheshta, meaning all the endeavors of a devotee is only for the pleasure of Krishna. Everything that a pure devotee does is purely for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So Krishnarthe Akhila Cheshta. Everything that a pure devotee does is for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, the Lord becomes Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He then reciprocates with his devotees. If the devotees are showering the Lord with so much love through service, what else can the Lord do but reciprocate with them? So all our endeavors should be used to please Krishna. But then you have envious, demoniac people in the material world. They may look very pious externally. They may look like they are good individuals externally. But internally, what are the demons that they are carrying with them? So far we've heard about the demons being killed by Krishna. So that means the demons must represent some anartha that the Lord is destroying. Because if you want to get close to the Lord, you have to get rid of your anarthas. So before we begin with the pastime for today, let us look at all of the demons and the anarthas that they represent. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his book called the Chaitanya Shikshamrita, he describes what the demons represent in the Vrindavan pastimes. What anarthas, anartha means, artha technically means economics, right? But then you have unwanted things that prevent you from approaching Krishna. So how do you remove these unwanted things from within you? So each of the demons represent one or more anarthas. So it begins with Putana. Putana pretends to be a motherly figure. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that she represents the false guru who leads you away from Krishna, who tries to kill the Supreme Lord and takes the position of this guru. So she represents the pseudo-guru, Putana, because she comes in disguise, right? She doesn't come as herself. She comes disguised as a mother to trick Krishna into feeding from her. Then we came across the demon called Sakatashara, the cart demon. Krishna was happily sleeping under the cart, Yeah. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this Shakatashura, the cart demon, because the cart is loaded with so many vessels. So these vessels represents all kinds of habits, an accumulation of good habits, bad habits, an accumulation of vanity because we experience so much pride in little things that we are able to do. So remember, the cart demon, the cart has a lot of things stacked up on the top. And when Lord kicks his leg and brings down the cart, everything just collapses. So these are the cartload of, you could say, impure habits that we carry with us. Then after this cart demon comes the whirlwind demon, the Trinavarta. What does Trinavarta represent? So the whirlwind comes, creates some hangama, everybody gets confused, disturbed. He picks up Krishna, he flies into the air, there is a dust storm that is created. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this Trinavarta represents false pride that comes from an accumulation of material knowledge. When you have a tremendous amount of intelligence or brilliance, but you use that intelligence and brilliance in accumulating knowledge that is on the bodily platform, that is temporary, that also leads to false pride. And false pride can also lead to, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, bogus philosophies that are not based in Shastra. Because you feel you know so much, you concoct your own philosophies about what is the truth. So this Trinavarta, that whirlwind, is like that, creating utter confusion. And ultimately, misleading themselves and misleading others. Then there was a pastime of the Damodar Leela. The two personalities that were released from the Arjuna Yamala trees. What do these two personalities represent? The two sons of Kubera, Nalakuvara, and Manikriva. They represent pride. Pride that comes from this false sense of prestige that is rooted in wealth and opulence. So that can also happen to us. When we accumulate a lot of wealth, we think, yes, we are so good, we are so careful. Nobody is like us who can multiply our wealth in such a nice manner. So certainly Nalakuvara and Manigriva, the wealth went to their head. So much so they didn't recognize Narada Muni. Or even if they did not care. They forgot their proper upbringing. They forget to bow down to him. So this is false prestige that comes when you have a lot of money at your disposal. So you think you can buy people, you can buy things, you can also buy people's worship of you. Then another asura comes as Vatsa Asura. Vatsa means calf. So again, asura coming in the disguise of a calf. Yeah. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that Vatsasura, or the calf demon, represents a childish mentality which is predominated by greed and mischievousness. And this mischievousness is not the mischievousness that one can admire. It's the mischievousness that is very wicked, actually. So that's what this Vatsasura represents. Then we have Bakasura, the stork demon that comes with that big beaks. So this particular demon, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, represents duplicity, deceptiveness, and false type of behaviors. Then you would have heard the Brahma Vimohan Leela, where Lord Brahma becomes completely bewildered with the potency of the Lord, where he steals the cowherd boys and the calves. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this particular pastime, of course, Lord Brahma is not a demon. But through this pastime, what can we understand? Brahma could not believe that this was the Supreme Lord. So immediately he had doubt. Can this little child really be the Supreme Lord? Because Brahma is used to worshipping Vishnu. How can the same Vishnu come as this 4-year-old boy, 5-year-old boy? Something doesn't seem right. Something smells fishy. Therefore, Brahma's faith was shaken when he was told this is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he begins to speculate and he begins to test the Lord. So this speculative scholarship, Prabhupada uses the word speculate quite a bit in the purports, especially when it relates to the Jnanis. Of course, Brahma is a devotee of the Lord, but momentarily he got bewildered. He was thinking, how can this be the Lord? So this speculation creates doubt, actually. Speculation creates doubt in our hearts. And when there is doubt, your faith gets destroyed. So doubt and faith don't go hand in hand. So in this Brahma Vimohan Leela, Brahma got confused and he begins to question what he knew. He was not willing to accept that this was a Supreme Lord, and therefore he tests the Lord. Then there is the killing of Aghasur, the snake demon whose upper lips touch the skies and the lower lips touch the ground. He was in the form of a huge mountainous cave. The children just walk in thinking, can you believe this cave? But they knew that Krishna would protect them. So the children go first. Krishna doesn't enter until the children have entered the cave-like mouth of Aghasura, the snake demon. So this snake demon represents cruelty and violence. He was only too happy to swallow all the children, but he was waiting for Krishna. Finally, Krishna enters and destroys him through just the potency of heat that the snake could not tolerate anymore. Then there is a slaying of Dhenukasura by Balaram. And then, of course, Krishna also takes part in destroying the demons in the form of an ass. So this ass demons represent a lack of spiritual knowledge or ignorance about the truth, and a focus on just materialistic intelligence. All the children wanted was the tala fruits. But the demon said, no, this is our property. How dare you enter? This is our domain. This is our land. You cannot enter here. And so Balaram just tosses Dhenukasur on top of the tree, on top of the tala tree. Then you would have heard the pastime of Kaliya, the serpent. This snake, or serpent rather, represents brutality and treachery. So I'm not sure if Sunirmala Mataji covered the history of Kaliya, how he came there, why he came there, how he became so proud. And when you don't have competition, you tend to become demoniac because you don't want to be challenged. So you will engage in brutality. Because Kaliya was there in that lake, nothing else existed. No flowers, no trees, no other animals could come and drink that water. So that whole lake was not safe. So that represents that brutality and treachery. So like this, these demons represent various types of anarthas and then certain pastimes that involve devotees of the Lord themselves who get a little bit confused or arrogant, like the sons of Kuvera, confused like Brahma during the Brahma Vimohan Leela. So the Lord is not done, even though the Vrajavasis have moved to Vrindavan, the demons continue to come at a steady pace. I heard one preacher say it's like Krishna has to have a demon for breakfast and a demon for lunch before they go back home. So once a day, he has to have a demon for breakfast and a demon for lunch. So that was the pastime of the Lord. So today, we're going to continue with one more demon. And for that, we're going to go into chapter 18 of Canto 10. So Kaliya has been subdued, and Kaliya has been sent back to Ramanaka Island. The lake is purified, therefore the Rajavasis can drink water from the lake. The cows and the animals can partake of the sweet waters of the lake, of the Yamuna river. So like this, Krishna enters the village of Raja. He is beautifully decorated. Herds of cows are following him. And like this, their lordships were enjoying their pastimes and life in Vrindavan, disguised as ordinary cowherd boys. And slowly, the season changes. It becomes summer. Now, generally for you and me, summer means it's very hot. For some of us, we experience a great deal of humidity. It could be an uncomfortable weather for us. Generally, very hot summer is not pleasing to the human body. We are not able to tolerate it, just like extreme cold is not pleasing to the human body. We are not able to tolerate it. But Sukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that because the Lord was personally present in Vrindavan along with Balaram, summer actually felt like spring. So the Vrajavasis were not experiencing terrible heat. That is the great speciality of Vrindavan, because of the presence of their lordships, Krishna and Balaram. So they were never in any distress because it was summer. And there are actually, even in this chapter, Shukadeva Goswami explains Mother Nature in the chapter, in this 18th chapter. And in the 20th chapter, he devotes the entire chapter to describing the flora and fauna in Vrindavan, which is very fascinating. If we have time, we'll get to that today. So Shukadeva Goswami explains there are these beautiful waterfalls in Vrindavan. And the thundering sound of that waterfall covers up the noises made by the crickets. And the spray of water, the cool water, just deposits these little dew-like marks on the clusters of trees surrounding this waterfall. And the wind, so it's as if the water is trying to serve Krishna and the devotees. So if the water is trying to serve and eager to serve Krishna and the devotees, then the wind is saying, what can I do to serve Krishna and the devotees? So Shukadeva Goswami is explaining how different demigods who oversee different aspects of nature are eager to serve the Lord. So the wind that is flowing over the lakes and rivers carry their cool breezes and their pollens. And the fragrance of the lotuses and water lilies. And like this, the entire Vrindavan becomes fragrant. And therefore, the residents did not suffer from the blazing summer sun. And summer means forest fires, seasonal forest fires. So there was so much green grass all around, even though there was scorching heat. The sun was trying to serve the Lord. So even though the sun was so powerful, the Vrajavasis do not experience any distress. The forests of Vrindavan were decorated beautifully with so many flowers, so many different colors, so many different fruits, so many different animals and birds were just filling Vrindavan with such sweet sounds. The peacocks and bees were singing. The bees were humming. The cuckoos were cooing. So briefly, Shukadeva Goswami describes the scenery in which Balarama and Krishna are performing their pastimes. So one day, Krishna is leading the cowherd boys into the forests of Vrindavan. He's leading, he's playing the flute. And what do the boys do? They decorate each other with lovely leaves, peacock feathers that have fallen on the ground, flowers they have plucked and made into a nice mala. They would decorate Krishna with it. The natural minerals they were there, they would mix it with water and take a nice thin stem and decorate Krishna's face, Balaram's face, each other's face. I heard Amarendra Prabhu say in one of his classes that this must have been the first beauty parlor where Krishna and Balaram were getting their cheeks decorated with all these gopi dots. And like this, the boys sang, they danced, they wrestled, they played different games. Shukadeva Goswami even describes the games that they played. So he describes the games like kabaddi, the hide and seek game, tug of war. Shukadeva Goswami explains all these sweet little games that these boys were playing. They were just enjoying themselves. Sometimes they would sing and dance. Sometimes Krishna would dance and all of the boys would sing and encourage him to dance. They would play their flutes and their cymbals and their buffalo horns. Sometimes the boys would dance for the pleasure of Krishna and Balaram, and Krishna would sing and say, shabash, shabash, you boys are doing such lovely kirtan and dancing and all of that. And Shukadeva Goswami says sometimes the demigods would come in disguise as the Gopas so that they could also participate in this singing and dancing and the worshipping of Krishna and Balaram by these simple cowherd boys. They had wrestling matches with each other. They had rules on how would the winners get rewarded, how would the losers deal with their loss in the game. So like this, they were having so much fun. They were playing with fruits. They were throwing fruits as, catch. They were using the different fruits as balls, like the bilva fruit is pretty hard. So they were throwing these fruits at each other. They were mimicking the emotions of animals like frogs and peacocks. They were joking with each other. They would make these swings and swing on the branches of the trees. Like this, they were having so much fun. And as they were playing, there was one demon that had entered Vrindavan. He thought to himself, I have to kill Balaram and Krishna today. Krishna and Balaram are always playing with the cowherd boys. Therefore, I have to disguise myself as a cowherd boy and enter the pastime of these games. Krishna and Balaram spot this personality right away. So there is a stream of water, and they have divided themselves into two teams. The captain of one team is Balaram, and the captain of the other team is Krishna. Everybody wants to be with Krishna's team, but Krishna says, no, 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 we have to divide equally. Then only there is fun. So Balaram was the captain of one team, Krishna was the captain of another team. And Krishna sees Pralambasura disguised as a new cowherd boy. And he says, don't you want to come and join us? You can come to my team. See, Balaram on the other side is very, very strong. So he has a huge advantage. So perhaps if you come onto my team, we can defeat them. So like this Pralambasur, who had assumed the form of a young cowherd boy, he came with the intention of kidnapping of Krishna and Balaram, but he decided he needs to tackle Balaram first, because Krishna was too powerful. Both Krishna and Balaram understood who this personality was. He has come in the disguise of a friend, as a playmate, with the intention of kidnapping and ultimately killing them. So the teams have been divided. Pralambasur is on the team of Krishna. Balaram has his cowherd boys there with him. And now the game begins. Some tug of war happens, and they create some rules, including some wrestling matches happen. And the rule is that whoever loses has to carry the winner on their shoulder from one place, and they have to deposit them in a place called Bhandirika. So that was the agreement, that the loser would carry the winner on their shoulders from point A to point B. So unfortunately, Krishna's team loses. Balaram's team becomes victorious. So that means Krishna has to carry someone. Then like this, each boy carries the member from the victorious team on their shoulder. So since Balaram's party was victorious, Krishna carries Sri Dhama on his shoulders. From point A to Bhandiraka is the place where they have to deposit them. Then Bhadrasena, who was on Krishna's team, carries another Gopa by the name of Rishabha. Now, Pralambasur, who was also on the defeated side, has to carry Balaram. So Pralambasur thought, perfect. I've got exactly what I wanted. The situation is so perfect, I have to carry the Lord, and this way I'll run away very quickly and kidnap him, be done with him, and then figure out how to handle Krishna. So very quickly, Pralambasur carries Balaram, but he doesn't deposit him in this Bhandiravan. He continues to carry him. Balaram is thinking, Arey, what is going on? He's not stopped at the point that where all the other boys were dropped off. So Shukadeva Goswami explains that for a moment, Balaram had forgotten that this was a demon. He was thinking, why is he not putting me down? So So momentarily, there is a little bit of fear in Balaram until he realizes, yes, this is the demon that came to play with us, pretending to be a cowherd boy. So as Pralambasura is carrying Balaram, he assumes his natural form, and he's this huge demon decorated with jewelry. The jewelry was shining so much, it was hurting Balaram's eyes. And then Balaram performs his pastime. Shukadev Goswami says that Balaram, just as Krishna was carried by Trinavarta, and Krishna became very, very heavy and had wrapped his tiny little arms around Trinavarta's neck, and this way killed him by suffocating him. Similarly, here Balaram becomes as heavy as Mount Sumeru. He became so heavy that Pralambasura could not run anymore. He had to slow down. That is when he reveals his original body form. So this demon, Shukadev Goswami describes, he has this coppery red hair flying all over. His eyes were huge and blazing. His teeth were all crooked, looking horrible. And then Balaram just uses his fist to punch Pralambasura's head. And Shukadev Goswami explains that it was almost as if Indra had sent a thunderbolt weapon to strike a mountain. So instantly Pralamba's head cracked open. He falls down, vomiting blood, losing his consciousness. And he lays there lifeless. Meantime, the other boys are worried. Where is Balaram? Where is this boy taken Balaram? So they've been chasing. They were astonished to see how Dauji had killed this demon, Pralambasura. And they were glorifying the Lord. And they were experiencing so much love for Lord Balaram that they embrace him as if he had been rescued from death itself, from the jaws of death. So in a sense, they were relieved, they were astonished, they were shocked. So they had this mixture of emotions, that we could have lost Balaram today. But it is so great that somehow or the other, he was rescued, he has come back from certain death. So this way, Pralambasura was killed, and this particular 18th chapter ends with Shukadev Goswami saying, the demigods were witnessing this pastime, and they begin to shower flowers from wherever they were on top of Lord Balaram, and were praising the excellence of this deed. So now what does this Pralambasura represent? He represents the desire for personal gain and honor, according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it is said that out of the 12 rasas, there are 5 primary rasas, right? And out of those 5 primary rasas, one of those rasas is the Sakya ras, which is why Pralambasura thought, it's best I disguise myself as a Sakhi of Krishna and Balaram in order to do what I need to do. So this Pralambasura, he represents a sham devotee. Because all the cowherd boys were devotees of the Lord. That is why they had this great fortune of performing pastimes with the Lord. And if you want to enter these pastimes, you must be a devotee. How did a demon get an opportunity to enter this pastime of the Lord pretending to be a devotee? So externally, he had to disguise himself as one of the Gopas. So this is a sham devotee. So who represents this pride, lust, fame, greed, etc. So the science of Krishna consciousness says that we have to be humble to associate with the Lord. If we are humble, then Krishna will be merciful. But sometimes when we practice Krishna consciousness, our pride surfaces up. And His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu was explaining this very nicely. He was talking about how sometimes when you become a devotee and you achieve a certain level of seniority in the institution, or if you're a really nice preacher, then you will begin to have followers. People will praise you, people will garland you, people will buy you gifts. Prabhu was explaining, people will fall at your feet, devotees will fall at your feet. Devotees will think you are this perfect person. So you achieve a certain level of seniority or good reputation you have. And Prabhu was explaining that this is such a huge risk for devotees who are successful. If pride gets in the way of them doing their service, then this is what happens. Balaram will come and pull you down a couple of notches. Balaram will come and try to cleanse you so that you can continue to be a devotee. So Prabhu was explaining, there are sufficient examples in ISKCON itself of people who have achieved a certain level of fame and it went to their head. And Prabhu was explaining, when does fame go to your head? When fame goes to your head, it is because you have forgotten Guru and Krishna. You have forgotten that you are not the doer. You have forgotten that Guru and Krishna are controlling everything in your life. So this Pralambasura represents that fake devotee. That devotee who forgets that it is only through the causeless mercy of Guru and Krishna that he himself became a devotee. Because sometimes this adulation, when other people begin to worship you like as if you're a great person. I mean, the nice thing about devotees is they always look upon senior devotees as very pure and perfect. So if that goes to your head, then that certainly will bring about your downfall. So sometimes Balaram, who represents Guru or Adi Guru, he has to come and knock you down a couple of notches so that you can continue to make progress. So sometimes, unfortunately, a downfall is necessary for us to come back to reality, so that we don't get carried away by any kind of worship or respect or, adulation that you get from others, even in the devotee community. So the biggest danger is this for us, especially for devotees who are preaching or who may be doing daily services. This kind of pride can worm its way into your heart without you even knowing about it. Yeah. So Balaram has to come to correct you. So this is the pastime of this Pralambasura and its connection to even devotee life, that we should always remain humble, that we're nothing. Everything is happening because of Guru's mercy, because of Vaishnava's mercy, because of Krishna's mercy, and therefore I cannot take credit for anything. Many devotees ask, when they are performing this devotional service, why am I not able to make progress very soon? Or if you're in leading bhakti vrikshas, you'll ask, why are people not taking my calls? Why are people not coming to the classes? Imagine if you were super successful just like that. That will go straight to your head. You'll think, I am so special. Only I am able to get devotees to classes. Only devotees respond to me. Devotees obey me. Devotees say, yes, sir, no, sir. Like this, only I have that capacity to attract devotees. I have that power. Actually, deliberately, Krishna makes it so that you struggle. You go through that internal struggle. It is not easy to make one more devotee. It is not easy to bring one more soul into the class. You have to do your prayaschitta. And that prayaschitta is actually purifying. So it is a journey that we undertake. We are not going to experience success just like that. So Prabhupada always said, bhakti is not cheap. Krishna is not going to give it to you very easily. He's going to keep testing you. But we have to be determined. We have to have so much faith that this process works and we'll follow the instructions of the spiritual master. One day soon, you will experience that success that you're waiting for. Until then, you should not be frustrated. We should continue with practicing Krishna consciousness. We should continue to make sure that our chanting is really good, that we're following the 4 regulative principles, and we're doing everything we can for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari.
Hari Hari Bol.